Hey guys, it's Cayley. Here in just a moment, you're going to see an interview that I just did with a fellow reseller in our community named Ken. Ken has a really interesting business model for selling on eBay. I think you guys will find it really inspirational as well as learn some different tips and tricks and ways to grow and scale your business. Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. Like you, I'm an eBay seller and I love meeting fellow sellers and learning about their story and how they got started. To start, could you just introduce yourself to us and share a little bit about your business on eBay?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Kaylee. Um, so my journey started when I was just an eBay buyer. So first and foremost, my name is Ken Gaetano, also known as the Hustle Bee on Instagram. So we have documented our eBay journey through Instagram. Just try to, meet with people, trying to find some advice and just, kind of like it's very fun to look back at, just how the journey has happened already. But yeah, originally, I moved here to the U.S. In 2013. Got married with my wife, and we just wanted to go on an adventure. So that's kind of like how I got here to the U.S. And once I got here, always been a huge sneaker collector. So that's when I stumbled upon eBay and I start buying shoes there. So that's kind of how my journey became. And I needed some money to fund our vacation back to the Philippines. And with the sneakers that I bought at this point, to give you a perspective, I had 150 pairs of sneakers just for collection, and that was the thing that got me hooked to buying online, the whole concept of e-commerce. So I kind of understood the buying side, but really never thought about the selling. And that's kind of like when we needed the extra money, I said I need to sell some of these pairs back. And that's kind of like how it started. I realized that I could make money selling the shoes that I bought on eBay. So that's kind of the light bulb moment happened. I was like, wait, maybe if I sell, 1,000 pairs every, 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, this could be a full-time income. And that's really when the journey started.
I love that story, especially that you're taking your passion for
Yep.
actually being a buyer and turning that into selling. I think it makes it that much better when you're looking at it from the seller side because a lot of sellers don't get to experience it as a buyer beforehand. So I think that's really cool. So tell me a little bit more about your business model, how it's
Hmm.
morphed over time. We mostly sell pre-owned items. Are
Yep.
you doing pre-owned, new? Do you want to share your ASP, your
Yeah,
COGS, anything like
sure.
that?
So, when we started, it was mostly like collectible sneakers. So you're thinking about, I guess it's a vintage category now, from the
Right.
1996 Michael Jordan shoes that he wore during finals, and it kind of like morphed into other footwear. Stumble upon different category like running, soccer is very big category for us now, and then over the years we've just tried to expand to athletic apparel. So in to sum it all up, I would say like I'm pretty much a athletic department store. That's kind of like how I want
Okay.
my eBay store to look like. So now it's mostly new. Currently, our ASP is around $90. It's very drastic. Just it has a drastic contrast because I sell shorts for $30 and I sell shoes, starting from 100 to the most I've sold was like a $9,000 shoe.
Wow.
So it is so extreme. But I would say on the shoe side, our average price is around um our average ASP, average selling price for shoes would be around 150 now. It got lower because I'm not focused too much on collectibles. We've focused more on everyday shoe now, from New Balance, On Cloud, Hoka's, and all that different brands. So definitely more diversified there. And for clothing, I try to have my ASP around 40 for clothing, and all of these are brand new now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting to hear because even though we kind of not kind of, we have a lot different business
Yeah.
models. We have so many similarities in the same way. And I think everybody listening can probably relate to sometimes I sell things for way high, sometimes I
Yep.
sell it for way low. And it's those averages that help us to meet our goals.
Yep.
And also, is one of the reasons I heard you say, I've kind of transformed from collectibles so much to more of the everyday things. Was one of those reasons because you wanted to scale? And how has your business morphed in that way? What made
Yeah.
those
I mean,
decisions?
yeah, like early on, I really wanted to, make this a full time living, right? And my initial goal was just really try to double my money. The business model when it started was buy for 20, sell for 60 plus shipping. That was that's all I did. I didn't go out of those constraints for the first 2 years. Only sold on eBay, single platform. So in our first year, we did $127,000 in our first year in sales. And since then, my goal was always to double it. So we double it in the second year, we double it in the third year. Fourth year, we kind of just like grew a little. Fifth year. So we are on our eighth year selling this year. And what I found out was, you need inventory. You need products listed to sell, right? So, we've had our goal to set at, hitting $450,000 in sales. I really didn't worry about selling. I was worrying more about acquiring $450,000 worth of inventory because, you can only sell what you have listed. So that was kind of like my mindset. And that's when the challenges came, we moved from a two-bedroom apartment to now our house that we bought in 2022. We operate in a 1,500 square foot basement, open plan. So our basement could, by estimate recently, our basement could hold $1 million worth of inventory. So we're working on getting there. But again, the challenge is you need more inventory. And when you talk about inventory, you need to spend more money. So that's, one of the biggest challenges that we face is trying to get more funding and get more capital to buy more products.
Yeah, that's such an incredible story. And what a great goal too of like doubling sales and being able to achieve that every single year. I just
Yep.
think that's so incredible. What would you say has helped you to fuel that growth and overcome those
Yep.
challenges that you were talking about with inventory?
Yeah, the biggest thing is one is, you have to really master your inventory, right? You have to know what products to buy. Like a lot of people say like, what should I buy? um there's a million things to buy, but I can tell you what not to buy. So that's always my thing. And throughout the years, you gain experience, you find things that is a no-brainer kind of purchase. And that's when you build connections, build relationships. Always big always treat the supplier as a long-term relationship. So don't try to nickel and dime them right off the gate. Try to work with them, create that win-win situation. And when we've built those relationships, that's when, they started texting you and calling you and letting you know that there are, upcoming sales. To give you a perspective, we mostly do retail arbitrage, buying past season items, store closeouts, and stuff like that. Once they got to that level, that's when they start, calling me and say, "Hey, I have 2,000 units of this." And when you're into the thousands of units, that's the thousands of the dollars come in too.
Mhm.
So that's when I've tried to explore multiple different types of ways to get more capital. Leverage credit card. That was the thing that was the easiest accessible, and to a point that I needed more still. And that's when I kind of like stumbled into like capital programs. I've used different capital programs before, and then recently the big thing is has made it so easy and streamlined is the eBay Seller Capital Program. That's the one that we are using currently. That's helping us get to the next level.
Awesome. Yeah, all of these programs and different things and different funding options just isn't really something I hear the reseller community talking a lot
Yep,
about. So I'm really interested to learn of that and start exploring some of that myself now that, I know it exists. How
yep.
did you even hear about the eBay Seller Capital program?
Yeah, so just being involved with the community, always attending, eBay Open is one of the big things that a lot of sellers attend to. I've heard about it because eBay did their eBay payments, so all the payments go through eBay now, and they talked about it, and I signed up for through the QR code that they did on eBay Open, and eventually, I got an email that I was eligible to take advantage of the eBay Seller Capital program. So that was kind of like very early on, right? And maybe we can talk about a little bit more of how way easier it is to do it now. But yeah, I got an email and I applied through that email, and it was coming from eBay already, a platform they already trust. They already know my transactions. They know what my business is capable, even through the nitty gritty of transactions that they have. So it was kind of like a simple and easy solution then.
Nice. The eBay Seller Capital program definitely sounds like it's been a game changer for you. I keep hearing notifications, seeing all of that,
Mhm.
but I hadn't really looked into it until recently. When I did finally read about it online, I saw that the application process is like really super simple
Yep.
and it's straightforward. Do you think you could walk us through, since you've done it
Yeah.
yourself, what it was like to apply for financing through the eBay Seller Capital program?
Yeah, it was very simple, and I don't know if you can break it down any simpler than this, but the story was I was actually on the road with my wife. We've done the business together for the last 8 years, and we're having conversations like, "Hey, like I wish we had more capital, right, to spend because I have this opportunity to buy more products." And when I got that notification and that email, and I said my account is eligible, I said, let me try this because obviously my first time doing it, always kind of like, um, how long is this process or how easy will they make this be, or do I need to upload how many certain whatever requirements they need. So I said, let's just get gas. Let me respond. Click on this notification, click on it, and right then and there, while I was filling up my car, it says I was eligible for it, and I
Wow.
got approved, and it says once I was approved, they said funding was available within 24 hours. So I was like, oh, this would be interesting. So I said, we'll wait and see if it actually hits my bank.
That definitely sounds very easy and convenient and super quick too.
Yeah.
I know traditionally that when somebody does apply for a business loan, they usually need to submit an application and then provide paperwork like bank statements. And then even after that, they usually need to wait for a decision to come through via email or a letter. So that can take days, even weeks. And even
Yep.
after the approval process, the speed of actually getting the working capital to use can take even more time. So, how important was that speed to you when it comes to scaling?
Oh, it's super important. I think that's one of the biggest things that we value so much with growth, about with growing our business, because there are opportunities that get presented to us so that they might have 5 or 6 sellers on their contact list. I was like, let me text this guy if he wants it. Let me text the next guy if the first one doesn't respond.
Some
So
competition.
yeah, there's always competition in every level. And again, it's whoever's the most reliable, whoever's the fastest to respond gets the deal. Just like it's plain and simple like that. And that's when funding is so important, because if you don't have the money, how can I commit to buy? But eBay is a very trusted platform. I've been selling there. I've been selling on eBay for 8 years at this point. That's when I said, like, okay, let's see if this 24-hour funding comes through. So I responded to the text that my supplier said. I said, I'll be there. I went there, and I basically just told him, like, hey, like, it's kind of getting late. Let's just do the payment the next morning. And I didn't have the funding yet, but eBay said this is within 24 hours, next business day, basically, right? So the next day I came back and the funding was on my, the money was in my bank. So that's why we were able to capitalize on that. And like I always said, that was the cool part about it is I didn't have to touch paper.
Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting to hear you talk about your specific business model because it's completely different than how I operate, and there's so many different strategies that work well for one business model and a strategy that works better for different ones. So, it's interesting to hear you focus more on those relationships and needing
Yep.
that capital to get those relationships moving to for the particular model that you're using. So once you did secure that working capital through the eBay Seller Capital program, what was your primary goal with that? Can you maybe share a specific example of how
Yeah.
you use that funding in your eBay business?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard one eBay seller. I remember this vividly. We were in Dallas and attended a seller meetup, and he's been selling on eBay for a long time, had a successful business, and he said this: "You make money when you buy, not when you sell." So if you think about it, the buying part already has secured you the profit that you're gonna make because you found a good product, you had the capital to buy it. So that specific moment, it was engraved in my head that I need to find this deals that as soon as I buy them, it's an automatic profit. So specifically on that buyout, um, when I got the funding, it was around $27,000 that I got for the funding, and I immediately bought this whole lot, and it was around 850 units, about average of $25 per item. And that lot sold within around 6 months. I might have some, few leftovers here and there, and that lot made us $30,000 in profit.
Right.
So without the opportunity and the speed to execute that buy, and without the funding, I would have missed out on $30,000 on profit. So, yeah, speed is important. Identifying the inventory, relying on data, and trusting your gut. It's all mixed together.
Yeah, I love that saying too that you said. I think I've heard something similar. It might have been even from the same reseller,
Yep.
but that you do make that money on that buy. Now that you have the capital that you do need to grow, what does your business look like now, fast forwarded?
Yeah, so currently we sit around like 3,000 listings. So this is how the business is set up now. We have 3,000 listings, over 5,500 units, and listed value is around $400,000. So that's where the business sits at right now. And like going back to, coming here to America and hearing about this American dream and trying to see like, can I really make it here? I've always heard that, America is the land of opportunity, and with the help of eBay, that statement has been true. The platform has provided for me and my wife being able to, live this life that, like you said earlier, like I don't have to work a day in my life because every product I touch is I care. I'm passionate about sneakers. I'm passionate about the streetwear and athletic apparels. I would shop my store. That's the main thing. Like, will you shop your store? That's the question that I
That's
ask a
good.
lot of seller, right? And if you shop your store, that means that you're attracting similar people like you that understands the same language, that understands the same value of the products that you're selling. There are two words that I live by that kind of been instilled in me by my parents, that never settle, always dream bigger. And that has been kind of like the mantra that we have lived throughout, kind of like our move here to the States. Like, how can we make this bigger? How can we make this better? And that kind of like, I guess, speaks through the growth of the business. um, how can we take this to the next level? So yeah, like never settle is kind of like the thing that kind of like connects everything. Never settle on our dreams, never settle on our business practice, our process, We have this thing that every year I change my photo booth. I change the backdrop of my photo booth because I believe within 365 days of using it, you find something that you can make it better. Constant improvement on that. So that's kind of like the mantra we live by. What about you? Any mantra that you live by?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I feel like I have a lot of mantras I live
Hmm.
by.
That's good.
But I don't know, when it comes to my reselling business, is something I see a lot in the reseller community that really resonates with me is a lot of people just having a lot of limited beliefs in their
Hmm.
mindset. And I know you were mentioning like dreaming big, right?
Right.
That's not something a lot of resellers feel like they're capable of doing. And so one mantra that I do live by is whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. So
Yeah, I like
you've got
that.
to believe that you're actually capable of reaching new levels, of breaking through ceilings, of dreaming big, even if it seems like, it's far out of reach. At the end of the day, figuring out your goals, I always say this on my channel, it's just a math problem. Like that's
Hmm.
all it is. And yeah, whether you believe you can or you can't, you are absolutely right. So breaking through those limited beliefs is really big for me. But at the end of the day, I do think you need to be realistic
Hmm.
and you do need to know those numbers. I know you told me you were a numbers guy
Yeah.
backstage. Um, and I do think the numbers need to make sense and it needs
Right.
to actually be feasible for your business.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, talking about beliefs, and we are what we dreamt of few years back. And the platform that we sell in, the kind of business that we even have, think about it, 20 years, 30 years ago, that who would have thought that people could make a full-time living selling things online to
Right.
people they don't even see, right? Like the whole brick and mortar phase is now kind of like being overtaken by the online retail space.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things where um, it challenged me on my beliefs and in my mindset that, wait, what got me to double my business from our first year to second year to third year is not going to be the same strategy and model and mindset to get me from my eighth year to my ninth year. That growth is different. And that's when you got to start looking at different ways to source. That's one of the things. Like before, I had to, I was sourcing the products one by one. It comes to a point that you don't even have enough time to pick up 1,000 items and inspect it. There has to be, a process where can you handle 1,000 items? Can you list 1,000 items? And then, more importantly, can you afford to buy 10,000 items? And that's when the unique way of the eBay Seller Capital program comes into play. It is a non-traditional way of getting funding, but it is the right size way that we can take advantage of it because eBay knows our business. There's no hidden fees. Right up front, you see what you pay, you see all the fees, and you pay it back by the percentage of your sale daily. So this is not your traditional you pay, every month or something like that. You pay through it daily by the percentage of your sales. And we all know we have peak season and low season, right? For us, Q4 is our best season, and then going into Q1, it spikes a little bit as well. So Q4 and Q1, our sales were hitting record numbers, but throughout the summer and fall, that's kind of like our slower season. And a lot
Mhm.
of it has to play with people are just out vacationing, right? So that's when it was perfect for our business because eBay Seller Capital program takes percentage of our sales. So if we have high sales that day, we pay high. If we have low sales, we pay low. So that's the cool part about the eBay Seller Capital program because it definitely feels like it is built for my business. So I don't have to stress about over making fixed payment with the eBay Seller Capital program that I took advantage of because it's pretty simple. It's in your seller dashboard, seller hub. You can see it there. It's pretty easy.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And finally, Ken, what advice would you offer to other eBay sellers who might be considering the eBay Seller Capital program to fuel their own growth in their own businesses?
Yeah, I would definitely, evaluate your business. I think that's the biggest thing that we constantly do. Evaluate your business and figure out what are the bottlenecks, what are the things that's slowing you down, or what are the areas that there's a lot of opportunities to be improved on. Whether it's needing more inventory, whether it's moving into a bigger space, right? Because we did have to move. We either we had to get a warehouse or get a house that has a big basement like a warehouse. So that was a move. Whether we had to hire part timers, there are moments during Q4 that we have to hire part timers. So those are ways that a lot of this expansion, getting your business to the next level, costs money. And this is when eBay Seller Capital Program can help us speed up that process. Can I grow without more funding? Yes, but it would be definitely slower. But can I speed it up through the help of eBay Seller Capital Program? Yes, that's what it did to our business. So last year was our best year ever in eBay because we had help and we had tools that we took advantage of, like the eBay Seller Capital Program.
Yeah, it seems like it just really relieves the stress and takes the pressure off. I know I have been through ups and downs in my business. And like you said, peaks and valleys. I think we all
Mhm.
go through that as resellers, times where sales are up, sales are down. In my own business, the biggest ups and downs I experience are time constraints. So for
Right.
me, I'm thinking about looking into the eBay Seller Capital program as an option for myself for those times where my time is very limited and I may need to rehire some more help to take over parts of the business that I'm not able to do because I simply don't have time. So that's really the main thing that I'm going to be looking into for my business. But there are obviously so many different ways to use it. Everybody has different bottlenecks in their business, so of course it's going to be different for every single person. But I think we all experience those hiccups and want that sense of release and just knowing that there is an option available. And it sounds like the eBay Seller Capital program is a really good option for resellers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the application process is so simple. The funding is fast. You see it up front. There's no hidden fees and costs and stuff like that. So, that's my challenge for any seller that wants to take their business to the next level and you need more funding to fuel that growth. The eBay Seller Capital is there. Take advantage of it.
Well, for those of you listening, if you've heard what Ken has talked about and used in his own business and you're interested in learning more about that for yourself and your own bottlenecks in your store, you could learn more about the eBay Seller Capital program. There will be a link in my description box. You can click it and see what offers you might be eligible for. I know I'm going to be looking into it for my own business. Ken, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey.
Thank you all.